Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility and Comic Book Users. Welcome to another edition of the Monsters Den and Comic Book Users. We're running this show on both channels this week. So this is the recap slash review of Spider-Man No Way Home. And we have in the co-captain's chair today, Mr. Chris Laszlo, Mr. Craig Kaminski, and Mr. Jamie Laszlo. Greetings, guys, and greetings, everyone watching.
Hey, hello, guys.
So I'm going to get this out of the way right off the bat. If you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home, spoiler alert,
nice, that's good.
Mr. Props is in the house today. If you haven't seen the film, stop watching right now because we're discussing everything that happened in this movie. And a couple of us has anybody seen it more than once? I know Jamie has.
Chris, I saw it twice.
All right, so we got just once for me, and I plan on going another time. So this is the third film in the Tom Holland series, and this is the eighth film, right? Eighth film overall in all the Spider-Man films. We had 3 Tobey Maguire, 2 Andrew Garfield, and now 3 in Tom Holland. So all right, so this film basically starts immediately after the last Spider-Man movie, which was Far From Home. So basically, for those of you who haven't seen that, and if you haven't, maybe you should watch it before you watch this.
Cool.
Basically, big battle throughout the film with Mysterio. At the end of the film, Mysterio outs Spider-Man as Peter Parker, and then cut to J. Jonah Jameson, who basically goes on the air. So here's the thing: Daily Bugle has now been updated. The Daily Bugle is now no longer just a newspaper; it's basically a media TV outlet, right? And J. Jonah Jameson is the star, the newscaster, right? So he basically goes on and says, "All right, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Oh my God, what are we going to do now?" That's where the movie starts. So let's start off with Jamie. So your thoughts on kind of the beginning of the movie, and kind of we'll just start somewhere, and we'll let this conversation just kind of move organically here.
Well, I love the movie. That's why I saw it twice. I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but these movies don't have to be perfect. I mean, they know what you want and they give it to you. A lot of times in these Marvel movies, these people are going to want this, they're going to want to see this, and boom, it's there. I saw it twice, and I saw it today, this afternoon, and I saw it the Thursday it opened. I don't know why they give release dates a Friday anymore. I saw it at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Thursday. That's the release date now. It used to be midnight at Thursday, and then they kind of moved it to 8, and then 7, then 6. Now we're at 3. So it was 2 different experiences, though.
Really?
On Thursday, you got a packed house, and they are the diehards because they got their ticket early. It's sold out almost instantly a month beforehand, and you got people that never saw it before, don't know the spoilers, and it's a rock concert. People are whistling, people are clapping, and not in an annoying way. Normally, this would annoy me, like shut the F up, but no, this made it even better. It was it wasn't in 3D, but it was like another dimension to the movie. And then I saw it today with a smaller crowd, and these were either not diehards because they waited a week, or B, people that already saw it. So the clapping was gone, the laughing was gone. And my view was, the first time I saw it, I said, this is great. I mean, I choked up twice. All right. I choked up when I saw Matt Murdock. I forget the guy's name.
Charlie
Cox. Yes.
He's so good. He's so good. And when he caught that brick, I was like, yes. And so many people, you got Marvel is the kind of company and film company they got an ego. They assume you've seen everything, and they're going to throw stuff in. And if you don't know it, then tough on you.
And that's exactly what happened when I saw the movie with my brother. And my brother, we watched it. I think we just watched the first, or maybe and part of the second season of Netflix of the Daredevil on Netflix. I haven't seen the third season. Matt Murdock comes on. My brother's sitting on my right, and I do this. I said, "That's fucking Daredevil," and he's like, "Huh? What? And and I was like, "It's fucking Daredevil. Look," and it's like. You know,
Well,
he's
that was like
blind.
that was the
He's a
experience in my
lawyer.
theater, because I saw it Friday afternoon and I was like maybe one of 6 people in the theater. And as soon as they showed Charlie Cox, and I knew he was coming, right? Because you had a feeling. As soon as they showed him on camera, I was like, yes. And I looked around and I'm like, obviously they didn't watch the Netflix show. I was like, you people.
There were rumors for the last year that he was walking around on set. So I knew, everyone knew it was coming, who cared, but it still had that punch when it happened. And when all 3 Spider-Mans, spoilers everyone,
yes,
started to swing in the action and they all landed, oh, it got me right here. I'm getting goosebumps right now. But when I saw it with the big crowd and everyone's laughing at every joke, maybe not every person's laughing at the same joke, but every joke, someone's laughing, a different group of people. And it felt sometimes like there were jokes put in where they didn't need to be, you know. For example, I'll give one example. The 3 Spider-Men are fighting. They're in a sandstorm around them from the Sandman, I guess. And they're like, we got to figure this out. We 2 Spider-Men were like, we never worked together in a team before. And our Spider-Man, Tom Holland, goes, well, I'm not to brag, but I've been in the Avengers. And Tobey Maguire goes, Avengers, great. What's that? Great line. Leave it right there.
Am I the only one that thought they were going to bring up the old Avengers TV show? That's what I thought.
Oh, like
Miss Emma
like,
Peel.
oh,
Where's Emma Peel?
Right.
But they go further and Andrew Garfield goes, is it a rock band? Were you in a band? Would you? That's bringing it too far. You're in a sandstorm, you're in a fight. Are you really going to care if this kid's in a stupid rock band that much? No. Yeah. That's just one example, but people are laughing the whole time. When I saw it today and no one's laughing, it didn't seem, the whole movie as a whole didn't seem as jokey with the laugh track gone, the quote unquote laugh track. So yeah, I kind of like the crowd, but I kind of like the fact that there wasn't a crowd. So I got the best of both worlds, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Chris, did you see any difference between the 2 crowds when you went, or was it?
Well, I did not. I normally would go opening night, but I wasn't able to go on Thursday, so I waited till Sunday. And both times it was a decent crowd, but it was not sold out. And I definitely understand what Jamie's saying. As you know, I mean, I saw Endgame 8 times in the theater. I saw Infinity War 10 times in the theater. So, you know, you definitely, there is absolutely, it does change the experience. Very similar to, you know, Pete, you go see a band and the show is sold out and everybody's into it and it's great. And then you see them the next night and they're in some B or C city and the audience is dead and it's like a third full. So it definitely does, play onto the experience for sure. But I thought overall, I thought the movie was great. I really enjoyed it the first time. I think I enjoyed it more the second time, to be honest. I agree with Jamie. There was a couple times, maybe there was a little too many jokes, like that part with the band. But, you know, this is a common thing that they do in the Marvel movies and even the Star Wars movies now. They do try and inject a little too much humor, sometimes at inappropriate times. But overall, I really dug it. I know I'm going to see it probably twice more in the theater because I have a couple people that want to catch it. But it really is something that we, you know, as a comic book fan, something you never thought we would see. I mean, I remember, I had to look it up. It was from 1976. My mom got me an issue of All-Star Comics with the Justice Society. And I couldn't understand at 6 years old or 5 years old why Robin was old and Superman was old and had gray hair. And there was a girl that looked like Batgirl, but she wasn't Batgirl. She was Huntress. But then within a little bit of time, I got more issues and kept reading more. I was like, oh, this is like a different Earth. You know, so the whole concept of the multiverse, and obviously it's been going on since way before then. But as someone who has always enjoyed the whole multiverse concept, to really see it now with all these old actors that they brought back is really something that we would never seen before. And it's crazy to think that, let's not forget, okay, great, we got it now in the Marvel universe. We're getting it in the DC universe next year because Michael Keaton is coming back in multiple Batman movies.
Twice.
Yeah, two at the moment, maybe more. So it's crazy. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed the movie. A ton of fun, great action, a little long, 2 hours and 48 minutes. But I got to be honest, like I said to a buddy of mine, I think like Endgame and Infinity War, these movies are going to live on home video and streaming. And when you're watching it at home, it's not going to matter as much. You can pause it, eat a pizza halfway through, do whatever, and come back. But
2.5 hours.
Yeah.
2.5. It didn't feel like 2.5 to me. I didn't feel
it moves quick. It does move very quick.
Yeah.
And I do like, just for the record, I do like a lot of the humor. I like it. You go to these movies to feel like a kid. All right. And the characters alone can do that. Because I still sit here and I go, I can't believe I'm seeing Doctor Strange in a big budget movie with a bunch of people who give a shit about Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives me a kid feeling, because the kid in me is like, wow. But that humor sometimes is the pixie dust, because you're giggling and laughing. And when you giggle and laugh, you kind of feel like a kid, and you put that into the mix. And now you got that feeling that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Craig, what's your impression of Doctor Strange's role in this film?
I like that he was in that was sort of the adult in the room, so to speak, because one Tom, I'm gonna say Tom Holland, but our as Jamie said, our Spider-Man, that you have to kind of do your suspension of disbelief that it's his character's supposed to be a kid, and that when he's that it's like, well, if I could change everything would be okay. And then Doctor Strange just started to do the spell, and he changes it, as he said, 5 times or 6 times. I guess it's supposed to represent the Sinister Six, or with the 6th being Venom, which happens at the end. So because you had your 5 villains really in it, and and then containing it in the box. And he was, I liked his little bit. I mean, it was a little too quick. I kind of wish Wong would have been in the movie a little bit more. Yeah. And because he kind of like just said something and left, and he really wasn't in the movie after that initial, right in the beginning, right? I don't think he came back. Yeah. But no, I like that he did the whole thing with the mirror dimension. That part was cool on the train, and where he and Spidey were fighting it out. And he had a lot of, at least from what I've read, and Pete, you would know way more than I would, but Doctor Strange in the comics is not as not jokey, but I don't know, his personality is not as in this, he's
very dry, very to the point. He's not a big talker. I think Cumberbatch, plays him a little bit looser than he is in the comic.
I mean, he tells them,
I agree with you 100%. Someone needed to be the adult in the room here, right? And the whole film is him trying to keep this teenager in line. It's like, well, we can't really do that, and no, you can't have that. And I think that worked out well. I think what I didn't want was Doctor Strange to be another Tony Stark, Iron Man, my mentor type of thing. Because I think we've seen enough of that already, right?
Yeah, and I've heard, I mean, you guys have probably read some of the same stuff too, where I'd read some things that said about, Tom Holland is in the back seat of his own movie, where he's not, in the first one, Tony Stark is basically the, driving the movie. The second one, Gyllenhaal is kind of driving the movie a little bit, and so and some of the other students on the trip in Venice and everything. So I mean, but in this one he was the main. He was pretty much the main guy. But to go along with what you guys said with your theater experience, I went on Saturday night at 6:30. I saw it on a regular screen in 3D, and which worked really well.
I did convince Craig not to see it in 4DX.
Yeah,
I don't know. Has anybody seen anything in 4DX?
I never even heard of it until
I went
I read
once,
about
and
it.
it is an awesome experience. I saw Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One in 4DX, but I saw Rogue One 8 times, and I made sure it was the first time was not in 4DX, because in 4DX you wear a seatbelt and the seats are hydraulic, so you go up in the air and you tilt back and forth.
They blow wind on you.
They blow wind in your face. They spray mist in your face.
Yeah.
Don't they do odors into the theater
They
too?
do
Yes,
odors.
Smell-o-vision
Where did you go?
exists.
Where did you go for this?
I went to Times Square. They do
okay.
flashes of lightning. It's a fucking amazing experience.
But you miss out on the movie.
Yes, that was my point to Craig.
You
Don't go
If
to
you haven't
40X
seen
the
it.
first time. Go see it in a regular theater, and then after see it if you like it.
Yeah.
Well, because I would like to see this in 40X, but I didn't want to see it the first time because it is so distracting. I'll never forget, in Rogue One when you see the AT-ATs. I mean, the entire theater was shaking. I remember there was a guy with popcorn and he had it like this because the seat was rocking forth, and so it's a cool experience, but not for a first time viewing.
Yeah,
I have an IMAX right up the road from me, about 3 miles away, and I saw it first time on IMAX and saw it today on regular screen. And that was a big difference.
Sure. I mean, but my theater, what was weird is I saw it, Saturday night at 6:30. So I'm seeing all these things on online on news. Oh, tickets are all sold out everywhere, and people can't get in. So I went out during my lunch on Friday to buy tickets, and I didn't have any issue getting tickets. Showtime comes and there's like nobody there. It was the theater. I sent Chris a message about this, or I said the theater I'm in says capacity is 133. There were maybe 40 people in there at 6:30 on Saturday. Wow. At my theater. So
I went up the
not
street,
complaining.
I went up the street today, 7 days later after it opened, 12:15. A lot of people still working today. One for the 12:15 Spider-Man, that's sold out. A week later,
wow.
I had to go to another theater about 15 minutes away, and they had recliner seats. So it worked out.
I live near several theaters. So for whatever reason, the one that I tend to go to is the unpopular one, even though there's nothing wrong with it.
I'll say, Craig, you should totally go to the Movie Tavern.
Yeah.
I saw a movie there and loved it. The experience was amazing. I know we're getting off topic,
but that was that distracting, being able, if somebody's coming over to you and asking,
because it was just Movie Tavern is a wall-to-wall screen. There was only like 20 people in the theater, but it's the biggest screen I'd ever seen for the least amount of people. The sound was booming. I mean, booming, which I like. I hate when you go to a movie and the volume is down. I mean, the 2 shows that I saw for Spider-Man, the volume was adequate, but it was not booming. And Movie Tavern, I was blown away. And there was like 6 teenagers, and they were specifically talking loud, but in Movie Tavern it was so loud you couldn't hear them. It didn't matter.
See, mine had like one. Somebody brought their goddamn 3-year-old kid or something, and so during quiet parts, where there was not any action, you hear, and it was like, take him outside. It was, it's a 2.5. Who would bring a 3-year-old to a 2.5-hour movie? It's like, dude, they're gonna get.
I ran a fucking 12-hour horror movie marathon, and I had to kick a couple out who brought in a little baby in a stroller. So people are
selfish.
They have no concept of anybody else. It's all about them.
But what you were saying about like with the jokes and everything, one, I have to say my favorite joke in the movie was when the 3 Spider-Men were talking to each, and Tobey Maguire shows that he has organic webs and not shooters. And they said, does it come out of everywhere? Because that reminded me, I'm sure you guys have seen it, of the Kevin Smith's Mallrats, where Stan Lee's in the movie, and Jason Lee asks him, Mr. Fantastic, are all his body parts fantastic? Yeah, and he says, well, we couldn't really get into that with the comic book code and all, and then later on he says to him, he goes, the thing is this wiener made of orange rock, and he says, it's a secret of the trade, so that's like the first thing I thought of when it's like, does it come out, does the webs come out of everywhere?
Just the wrist.
But it's funny that they were all, because they're all three are super scientists. They're all really smart in their worlds. And so then when they're all nerding it up, figuring out all the different ways to fix the supervillains and everything, I thought that was pretty cool. I thought with the banter.
Am I the only one that kind of was reading into that? Like, oh, we have to fix these people, but the people that were going to be fixed were like, I'm fine. I don't need to be fixed. And I'm like, wow, am I reading into this? Or is this like a whole vaccine thing that we're like, well, I don't know. Again,
it's like a Clockwork Orange, free will type thing where it's like, well, what if, because in the movie, doesn't Electro, doesn't he actually, I mean, he's the first one to say, I like this world.
Well, he doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to go back and die.
Yeah.
And he was a nobody beforehand. So him being Electro.
And he says, I feel more powerful here and everything. And, Dr. Octopus was probably the easiest one to fix, right? Because all you had to do is replace a chip and he's fine. But
I have a question about Electro. I thought of it today when I watched. First time he meets Tom Holland, Peter Parker, it's out in the woods, and Spider-Man goes out there. He's thinking it's the Green Goblin because there's a report of a flying monster, and he sees that it's some electric guy. And the first thing he says to him is, "This isn't your universe. How do you know? You got monsters in your universe. How do you know this one is from another one? What gave that away?"
Say that Doctor Strange detected something, or somebody detected something, and that's why he went out there. But yeah, there's certain things that you just got to go with. Like I know somebody analyzed, like, okay, wait, when they were like, oh, all these villains died at the hand of Spider-Man, and then it's like, no, wait, Sandman didn't die from Spider-Man, and then Electro like knows Peter Parker, but then I haven't seen that movie in a while, but somebody's like, no, they never, he didn't know that Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
They all knew Peter Parker in their worlds, so that's what was the common factor of whether
something I thought of too the second time I watched it. Again, we got to remember this is a movie, so you just got to go with it. But when he's like, all right, well, if we make everybody forget about Peter Parker, a multiverse is collapsing, so all the people that know now that Peter Parker is Spider-Man are now, and it looked like they were all supervillains in the sky. The two that I could pick out, one looked like Kraven from the comic books, and one definitely looked like the Scorpion from.
I thought I saw Rhino.
You're all right. You're both right, because I have to watch sometimes recaps on things where they capture all the minutia.
It does go so fast, but
where they capture the minutia, and you're exactly right. The guy said it. One was Kraven, one was the Rhino, one looked like an old school Scorpion, like with the fat tail, and then another one might have looked like the Watcher.
Okay,
he was actually there.
The solution is, okay, we make everybody forget Peter Parker, and that'll save everything. Except now Peter Parker has a life of loneliness. But I'm like, well, wait a second. Why don't you just do the opposite? Why don't you just make everybody forget Spider-Man?
And then he's fresh and new again, right?
And he's fresh and new. So Spider-Man jumps on the scene. Everybody forgot about him, but Peter Parker can still live his life. I know that would ruin the somber ending, and that's what they were going for. And it was a great ending. But I was just saying, I was like, wait, wouldn't that have worked?
How about when Doctor Strange was doing the final thing at the end, but before he did it, he goes, Peter, everyone who loves you is going to forget you. Are you sure? I'm thinking, why didn't you do this speech the first time? Why did we go straight into this? And while you're doing it, you're saying, hey, everyone's going to forget you, by the way.
Yeah, then you don't have a movie, right? Then you have no movie.
It's like,
good point.
It's like
we're here to the rules before you do the spell.
Yeah, it's like the if you get 3 wishes, it's like, you know, you don't just all of a sudden just blurt out, you know,
Right.
well, I want to be rich, or you have to really think this shit out.
I have a legit question that I meant to Google before the show.
I'm gonna have one too.
Thomas Hayden Church.
Yes.
He's not really in the movie, and when we see his face, it's kind of like Peter Cushing in
He's Sandy. He's
in
all
what do you call
Sandy.
it?
Rogue One.
Yeah, Rogue One. So
is
but
he
that's his
CGI'd in?
voice, though, right? That's his real voice. So why didn't
Definitely.
he go on camera?
Well, a lot of times what they do, and again, I don't know whether they did in this. A lot of times what they do is they actually film the actor wearing all that weird shit, kind of like the guy who plays Gollum, and you know.
Yeah.
Whatever. So that could have been him throughout the whole movie, but they CGI'd over the Sandman look.
But in the original movie, he went back and forth, sand.
Yeah, not in this one. Yeah,
It felt like they were hiding him because they couldn't get him on the set for
I don't
some
know.
reason.
I mean, he's
Well,
listed in the
also, too,
credits.
Maybe
And
it's
what was the-
cheaper to CGI the Sandman than to have Thomas Hayden Church, you know, the entire time coming in and out. I mean, like the guy that played the Lizard, he had, you know, it was his voice, but like he had like 5 seconds of screen time at the
end,
very
yeah.
end.
Yeah.
And I
And
still
what-
say they should go with the 70s Lizard because it's so much more sinister and creepy.
Gotta have the jacket, man. Gotta have
The
the one-
jacket and the hissing and
They should have brought in the 70s Peter Parker from the
I don't want the
TV.
lizard talking and telling jokes. I don't.
yes,
I don't want that.
absolutely.
They should have brought in the Spider-Man from Electric Company.
Dude,
He could
bring
have done the bubble.
the
I'm
Japanese
Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
too.
Well, why did the Sandman come back at all? Because I mean, the characters, I mean, in the movie, because it's like they all had some kind of arc. So, and didn't he say something like, "Oh, I have a daughter here" or something like
Yeah.
that? But I didn't get. I mean, I only saw it once, but it's like, why was he even there? And what was his beef?
I guess they wanted another villain. So
Yeah.
you know, if you
Well,
think
I mean-
about it, they went over the villains. The only ones they left out was Venom, New
Vulture.
Goblin, and right, but not Vulture because Vulture they're going to use again later on.
I know.
So I mean,
But if you want to go back to the original Sinister Six, that's basically everybody you saw plus. Well, let's see.
Shocker. Was Shocker
No,
one of the
the
originals?
original
Yeah.
Sinister Six was Green Goblin, Mysterio,
Yeah,
Vulture. There you
this
go.
is Hobgoblin.
Yeah, Hobgoblin was not the
Sandman,
original. It was the original was the Green Goblin. Sandman was in the original Sinister Six.
Electro. Yeah.
Electro.
Yeah.
So is that all of them?
Yeah, it has here Electro, Green Goblin, Mysterio, Sandman, Vulture, Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So I mean, my whole thing, it's like you're going to bring 5 of them back. I mean, I get that they may still do a Sinister Six film. I get that, but why wouldn't you have if you're going to bring 5 of them back into this film, bring 6 and just do it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they could. I mean, I get.
You got one shot. Do it.
But
No,
but
But
I'm
then
glad
that
they
changes
did.
the movie because
I'm glad they
Sinister
did not-
Six
But
would
I'm
be-
glad they did not bring Paul Giamatti back as that lame ass rhino.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That was if you're gonna have a rhino, it has to be a guy
We
in a
want the
fucking
real
They have a
Right.
joke about him, though.
A guy
They
in
do
a
good
suit
joke
with
about
You
the
him.
have a
horn.
joke about him, yeah.
You know, yeah. I want a guy in a suit with a horn. You know.
I will say, thank God with Jamie Foxx's Electro, they finally had. I mean, it only happened for half a second where when he would
It
start
did
to
happen
fly,
twice.
you see
He had he had the
2
crown.
times, yeah.
He had like the 5 whatever
Yeah,
you call it, the
star.
crown.
And
happened
thank
twice.
God they destroyed that Green Goblin mask right off the bat.
Yes.
We all hated.
As
You
soon
got
as
a
he
guy with a crazy looking face
smashed the
cover it with a
mask.
mask.
Yeah.
But I wish
Well,
they gave him something though.
Yes, I still
A
Willem
little
Dafoe
green
has such a
in
great
there would have
face.
been nice. Yeah.
They could have put something very thin, but you know, a rubbery. He's got such an evil face. They could have done something.
Yeah, they could have.
And he's
With,
so good
with
in the
the
role.
hood,
Oh, he was
it looked
great.
incomplete.
Yes,
Yeah. And he
he
had
didn't,
the
he
bag.
didn't need. He
Yeah,
didn't
he
need
had
the
like the
pocketbook.
satchel.
No,
you
he
know,
didn't.
and the-
Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah.
yeah, I would have liked, you know, a little bit more because I think as a kid, Green Goblin and Lizard and Morbius, I thought were like the scariest looking, comic book villains.
Yeah. And I will say, Alfred Molina as Doc Ock is the best.
He's great.
Fantastic, yeah, he was
Yeah.
great.
As soon as
Head on.
he shows up, just even from the previews where, just the hello, Peter, it's just so cool, and everything. And he had the glasses on, and everything.
Yeah,
So
he's so good. He's so good. Was anybody sad to see Aunt May die?
Yeah, I definitely was. But I tell you, as soon as that explosion went off, I go, there was a few things that I thought were very predictable. As soon as that explosion went off, I go, oh, Aunt May's dead. That's it. They're going to talk, and it's going to be like, oh, wait, no, you have something poking in you. And I called that one as soon as the bomb went off.
He gets hit with Green Goblin's sleigh thing first. So that could do a lot of damage right there, let alone the explosion.
Right. But yeah, as soon as...
And Tom Holland needed his Uncle Ben moment because the other two had their sort of Uncle Ben moments, and she got to say with
you had to kill her if everybody's going to forget him. You can't have her floating around out there. So
this is how it is to me. You had to have Spider-Man lose someone, and you have to have him kind of make his own suit in, blue and red. It took 3 movies, but we got there. He's drifted away from that Tony Stark tech a little bit,
which I was done with anyway.
Right. Well, if you really think about it, like the entire setup now we can do an old school Spider-Man story with Spider-Man on the street, and he's not in an Iron Man suit. It doesn't have to be a whole world-ending thing. It could just be him fighting.
Yeah, because
I thought maybe that apartment that he rented was maybe Tobey Maguire's apartment from the original series.
Probably. You almost expect Harry Osborn to show up. It's like, hi, I'm your neighbor, Harry Osborn.
I think are you supposed to assume that Peter is going to, his friends are going to MIT, so therefore he's going to Empire State, like in the comics or something?
No, in the book, there's a GED book in the box. So I assume he didn't even graduate high school. He's not, right, because nobody knows him. So he's not going back to finish his senior year.
Is he going to work for the Daily Bugle?
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's what I thought. I'm like, wait, we've got a whole trilogy here where there's no Peter Parker taking pictures for J. Jonah Jameson. That's what I thought we were going to get at the end. Be like, hi, I'm Peter.
Go to college, and he works at the paper.
And here's some pictures of Spider-Man.
Is it a paper though? It's just a.
Well,
they showed.
I mean, he could be like.
They actually
here's an MP3 thing of fucking video of Spider-Man.
They're going to have to sell me on why he would want to do that, though. They're really going to have to sell me.
But he's got nothing, right? He needs a job. Right? That's the first thing I thought of when the guy's like,
"All right, you sold me."
when he's like, "Great, rent is due the first of the month." I'm like, "Well, he doesn't have Peter Parker don't have a job. He's still in high school." He's got to fucking do something to make money. Yeah. So that's what I thought they should have done. He meets J. Jonah Jameson real quick, and he's going to give him Spider-Man stuff for money.
And I saw that, at the end, where he's, has the comic book accurate blue and red suit on. I actually said to my brother, I said, well, he can't be using the suit, the Iron Man suits and anything, because if nobody knows that, they would think he stole it. Even if he does have it, he can't. Everybody would be after and saying, "Who's this guy?" Going around with stolen tech, and everything. So it's like, well, okay, now we're going to have a traditional, just the suit.
I think it really was the setup to get back to basics, which is cool.
Friendly
it's kind of like the reverse.
Yeah.
Let me, guys, which Peter is your favorite of the 3 actors?
This one, by a country mile.
Yeah, I think I want to say Tom Holland, because to me, he started the youngest and he was the most believable as a young man. I mean, I love the Tobey Maguire movies, but he looks like he's 33 when he's supposed to be in high school.
Yeah. I was never big on the Andrew Garfield. I don't mind Tobey Maguire at all. I
like the Andrew Garfield in this one.
Yes.
10 times more than his own.
You could relate to him more in this film. Yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Yeah.
And his like him as an moment of saving MJ was nice.
Oh, before I even saw the movie, I figured, okay, there's going to be a scene where MJ falls off the side of a cliff or a mountain, and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man has to be the one to save her. Which again makes
redemption,
because it goes to Gwen. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and then they also there's a couple things which again they allude to, or they have in other movies, where one where Jamie Foxx says to him, well, there has to be a black Spider-Man out there somewhere, and because in Homecoming, I believe, didn't Peter or Spider-Man meet Donald Glover's character in that was the Prowler,
Right.
who was supposed to be Miles Morales' uncle, and he even
Yes.
references him and says, "What? Oh, my nephew,"
Right.
you know, or something, you know, in that.
Oh,
And,
I'm sure they'll get to him. I mean, that Into the Spider-Verse was massive.
well, and
You guys like
the
it?
other, yep, and the other one,
I never saw it. I
Oh,
never
dude.
saw it.
Yeah, it's good.
the other one where they mention where Tobey Maguire says that in his world that he has a family with his MJ, and in the comics, isn't it correct that their child is May Parker, who becomes Mayday, like she becomes like a Spider-Man too, also. So I think that's, you know,
Yeah, I mean, they could listen. They could.
kinda
This
let
thing
the
is
door
making
for
so
that.
much money. They could give Andrew Garfield another movie, and they could give Tobey Maguire another movie.
And
They
I was
could, you
glad
know,
that he didn't die. I thought Tobey Maguire was
I
actually going
did.
to die.
I did
Yeah.
at the end, which I thought was a good red herring.
Yeah. Although it was good for him to say, yeah, this really hurts, you know, or something.
Like when he was cracking his back, there was a couple of those
Yeah.
humor parts I could appreciate being an old guy.
And I liked where they all hugged it out at the end. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you know,
Was
we're
there
all,
a rumor
you know,
that Toby might not be able to do the movie because of back problems, and that was that joke?
Yes, and well, he hurt his back on Seabiscuit with riding the horses.
Oh, okay.
So that's why there's in one of the Spider-Man movies, there's another joke about having a bad back.
All
yeah.
right.
So before we, I'm trying to think, do we talk about the final scene first? Or the mid-credits scene?
Yeah, let's go in
Because
order.
I want to go
Yes.
like where does the Spider-Man series go next? But we kind of have to talk about the mid-credits scene. So of course there is Eddie Brock, right, sitting in a cabana somewhere in the Caribbean or whatever, because he got pulled out during the whole thing of what happens at the beginning of this film at the end of the last Venom film. So they lead you to believe that they're going to somehow bring the Venomverse and the Spider-Verse together. But then at the end, we're not quite sure because he gets pulled back again. But yet there's
Right.
the little blob of symbiote that sits at the bar,
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
So what do you guys think about that whole thing?
I don't know.
Goodbye,
That
Tom
whole
Hardy. You
Sony
don't
Marvel
need Tom
thing?
Hardy. You don't need Tom Hardy now. You've successfully removed him from the equation because you now have a symbiote there. They already established like the symbiote licked the screen, so he likes Spider-Man. So you could do like what you did in the comic. He could bond with Peter. Peter can reject him, and then he can latch himself onto the Tom Hardy or whatever, the Eddie Brock or whatever you want to
So
do.
what you're saying is that
in
technically
that.
we could still have Tom Hardy Venom films and bring Venom into the Spider-Man movies and not have them meet.
Not have that Tom Hardy,
Right.
you know,
Right.
from
That's what I got.
because he got sent back.
Yeah.
So you could have different Tom Hardy and do it more comic book accurate, that the symbiote doesn't necessarily bond with him. It'll go to Peter Parker first.
It's so confusing, this Marvel Sony thing. What's allowed? What's not allowed? What can I have? What can't you have? What can you have? That it's like having a threesome with your wife.
You got
It's
to
got
have
to
the
lay
rules.
down the rules, and then what you can do, what you can't do with the other one. You're so confused, you don't even want to do it anymore.
But even Charlie Cox and the Kingpin, Kevin Feige, who ran Marvel, was like, oh no, all those Netflix TV shows,
Yeah, they don't count.
they're not really part of our Marvel continuity. Now he's pulling two characters in
Because people like them. Yeah.
Right. But it is very confusing. I mean, because if you think about it, it's like, okay, we have the 3 Spider-Man universes plus the Venom universe, plus now technically the Marvel Netflix TV universes
Plus
all coming together
as well.
And
Morbius.
Agents
Right,
of
in this
S.H.I.E.L.D.
one
on
movie.
TV.
Yeah.
I guess that wasn't part of anything really. Kind
Wait,
of.
which one?
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show on
Well,
ABC.
yeah,
or
Yes,
whatever.
I don't know how that.
If
I mean, listen, that wasn't in this
if you-
movie, so
If you watch the Hawkeye show, they sort of made that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into that happened in a parallel universe type thing. You know, how that resolves itself at the end.
But yeah, I don't know where they're going with the whole Venom thing, but Absolutely, Spider-Man and you know Tom Holland Spider-Man and Venom are going to meet in a Sony movie at some point. You know, Sony is trying to build their own Spider Sony universe. That's why we've got a Morbius movie, and that's why they wanted to do a Sinister Six movie without Spider-Man, which doesn't make any sense.
And a Craven film, I heard.
A Craven movie, yeah. So they wanna get their own stuff together so they can keep doing this without Marvel's help, which probably will suck. But
What do you think of Venom, the movies? I'm not a fan.
I saw
I
both
only
of
saw
them in
the
the
first
theater.
one.
I liked them, but I didn't love them. I mean, I didn't buy either one on home video. You know, maybe if I see them cheap, that's what I keep saying. If I see them cheap, I'll pick them up.
First one's a lot of fun.
I thought the first one was
good.
funnier.
Yeah.
The second one I thought was not as funny, but I thought the second one had better action.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get out that it was so different than the comic book, because there was no Spider-Man in the equation.
Yeah.
That, you know,
Right.
yeah,
I mean,
you know,
I
and
miss
everything.
seeing Venom with the you know the white spider on his. The electric bolts is just kind of stupid looking.
Yeah.
I don't like nice Venom either. Saying I love you to people.
Right.
Oh yeah, in the comics, in the early comics, he's great with all the stuff saying "I'm going to eat your face." And,
Oh yeah.
you know,
I
and
mean,
all
great,
that.
yeah.
And with the skull. I
And the
remember on
drool, and the
cover.
drool. He
Yeah.
always drooled.
I mean, I have 12 Toy Biz talking Venom figures in my attic.
Do any of them say I love you?
No, they all say "Die, Spider-Man," and "I want to eat your brain."
Right.
And then the third button is a hiss. So, but yeah, I think that's where they're going. I don't know about them the dropping the bit of goo. I assume, like Craig was saying, they're going to have some kind of symbiote now in the Marvel movies. Maybe, you know, I'm sure they have something figured out for it.
So where do you think, like, so let's kind of break away from the Venom stuff for a second. Where do you think, where would you take the next Spider-Man film? If you were like kind of driving this whole thing based on what we just saw, where would you take, Chris? Where would you take?
I would make it old school, you know, old school story. It's Spider-Man on the streets. It's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's in the city, and there is Craven or Rhino or two or three of them, and there's some kind of plot, and Spider-Man is on the prowl, and you know, lots of fighting.
Suit.
Yeah. In the old school suit, no Iron Man shit, no world-ending stuff,
No Avengers.
no countdown where the Spider-Man pulls the red plug at 1 second to go. None of that.
Maybe
Just
the
give
movie
me-
could start with an old school bank robbery.
Yeah,
Some
Shocker.
guys with masks
You know,
on
and
and
we've
put
all been
dollar
asking this
signs
forever.
on the money bags.
Totally.
Yeah.
You know, come up with a
or
shitty villain.
use somebody that you haven't used before, like the Scorpion, you know, or something like that, and that is more a simplistic villain, not
Right, the Shocker, the Prowler, whoever.
Craven. I think
Craven the
Craven
Hunter
would be
for me would be
cool.
the great place to
Yes.
go next.
Yeah, see, Craven
Yeah.
would be a great main villain. Yeah,
Yeah.
come up with a shitty one to have Spider-Man, kind of like the beginning of, was it Batman Begins, where he catches Scarecrow. Not Batman Begins, the second or third one, because
Yeah.
we'd already seen Scarecrow in the first movie, so we see Batman catching him in the second movie, the third movie. I don't remember which one it was.
I mean,
but-
here's what you could do for the next Spider-Man film. You can maybe throw a guy like the Chameleon, who's the first ever Spider-Man villain, and he sucks, but you could throw him out there. Or you could have like the Vulture breaks out of prison. He's got to deal with the Vulture, and then Craven shows up, and he actually is the main villain of the next
Right.
Spider-Man.
Have the
film.
chameleon in a like first 10 minutes of the movie, and then he's gone. Almost like
Yeah,
the
right
beginning
in the
of a
beginning.
James Bond movie.
Yep.
You know, that you got that set piece, and then he's gone.
Yeah, that would work.
I mean, hell, you could have the Chameleon walking around at some point looking like Mysterio, and then Spider-Man thinks it's Mysterio, and he's like, "Oh wait, he's dead," and whatever, and then you find out, oh, it's not really Mysterio.
And he could look like Aunt May, and then
Yes,
you find a reason to bring
really,
back Marissa.
right? Have
Tomei.
him really fuck with Peter, be like, "It's your Aunt May," but nobody. I guess nobody would remember that.
Yeah.
So let's I know it's this is all about Spider-Man, but I'm still pretty jacked about Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock.
Oh, absolutely. I wish we had gotten more of him.
Yeah. So where do they go with that now? So
I was hoping-
rumors I've heard is that he might show up in the She-Hulk series.
That's what I heard.
In 2022, because
Yeah.
of course, the She-Hulk character, her alter ego is a lawyer, and that maybe Matt Murdock is going to be a part of that. But then I also heard that he's going to be part of the whole Echo series, which is coming, which is part of the next a Hawkeye sort of thing, right? So who knows?
And do they
if you
bring
figure
back
if you
Luke
throw Kingpin
Cage?
in now, right? Because Kingpin and Hawkeye.
Well, I was going to say Kingpin was
And
basically
Daredevil.
shared by as a villain by Spider-Man and Daredevil.
Daredevil, yeah.
I mean, he was certainly in the Frank Miller run, like Kingpin and Bullseye were like Daredevil's greatest foes. So that would be great. Have Daredevil as a secondary character and bring Kingpin in as a villain. And what does Kingpin do? He hires Shocker or Rhino or Stiltman or whoever
Stiltman, yeah.
to fight Spider-Man.
Do we get a Power Man and Iron Fist somewhere?
Well, I mean, that's where I was going next, because I've heard Jessica Jones. They're already talking about that. I've heard they're already talking about bringing the Punisher in. So
Sweet Jesus,
getting any
give
younger.
Iron Fist the goddamn real suit.
yes.
Uh,
I mean, it's such a great looking suit. Give the
The
goddamn suit.
yellow looks good on everything, man.
Well, I read
Yeah,
something.
so good.
I read something about that. The character, the Danny Rand character, like was people didn't really like that, but then the Colleen Wing character
Oh, she
might
was
come
great.
back
Yeah.
as something they want to try to use her. And I really enjoyed the Luke Cage show a lot. That was really well cast. Mike Coulter as Luke Cage, I thought was great. And then when that ended, it was like, shit. I really enjoyed.
Well, it ended on that cliffhanger, and it's like, okay, it's like Luke is a bad guy now, kind of, right? And it's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
How
for me,
about
I hope the Punisher shows up somewhere, because I think John Bernthal as the Punisher was.
Yeah.
was
Forgot
amazing.
about him.
Yeah.
Although I still would have loved, I mean, I know they had him as Crossbones, but man, I still would have loved Frank Grillo as the Punisher. I always watched that, what's that movie? The Purge, the second Purge movie. And every time I watch it, I'm like, this is like, I just pretend he's the Punisher, just going through the streets shooting people.
And how about the final extra credit scene in the movie, which is
that was like
basically a trailer?
shoehorned in. That
The
was
Doctor Strange trailer, yeah.
That was just like let's just shoehorn one thing in.
And
was
Marvel
cool.
with their ego going, you watched What If? We know you did. I didn't see that one. I didn't watch all of them.
What? Oh, you didn't see
I
What
gotta
If?
watch it.
Some of those were good. They was kind of hit and miss,
Yeah, I thought so.
but
yeah.
but
Sam Raimi did that one, so that high hopes, a lot of hopes, high hopes for that.
But the new Doctor Strange movie makes it look like the villain is the evil Doctor Strange,
Doctor Strange,
from
right,
the
yeah.
What If.
What If? Yeah.
Which could be, or it could be a misdirect, but
Yeah.
I thought it looked good.
Marvel's known to do that, so yeah.
Absolutely. But it looked really cool. I mean, all the stuff spinning in the sky and everything. I was like, this looks really cool. I enjoyed, I'm not the biggest Doctor Strange fan, but I enjoyed him in his solo movie. I thought his appearances were great in the other Marvel movies. I did kind of think when Peter outsmarted him with the whole math thing, I don't know if I bought that. I'm like,
Right.
really? And then he's like, I was hanging over the Grand Canyon for 12 hours. I was like, really?
This is the Sorcerer Supreme we're talking about here. Come
Yes.
on. I mean, I don't care.
Like,
how
you
smart
couldn't
people
have come
are.
up with something else?
But he's not
Like-
anymore because of a technicality.
Right.
But the
Well,
best
this is like that week when Ric Flair was an NWA champion. Like, oh, okay, fine. This week he's not, but he'll be back next week.
the best looking thing in that Doctor Strange 2 trailer, Scarlet Witch.
She looks like Scarlet Witch. Yeah.
Yes,
Oh.
thank God they gave her the suit at the end of the TV show, and
I
I thought it was good too. They mentioned the TV show where
the actress.
Doctor Strange's like, oh, I'm not here about Westview. I'm like, okay, that's great connection.
Elizabeth
But
Olsen. Yes.
I don't know if Jamie said it or
She
Craig.
does it for me.
But I heard from two other people who had, younger relatives who both saw Spider-Man and they thought it was only mediocre or so-so. But the feeling is, but these people have not seen all the previous Spider-Mans and Marvel
Oh,
shows,
my.
so you're not invested in the characters.
Yeah.
So when MJ is falling off the side of the cliff, you're like, okay, whatever. When these other two Spider-Men show up, you're like, okay, it's 3 guys in Spider-Man suits. Who gives a fuck?
When
You're all
Daredevil
in
shows
costume.
up, you're like, why is that blind guy catching a brick?
Exactly.
I'm a good lawyer. I don't get that show.
Right. So yeah, if
this
you're
film
not
was for guys like us.
100%.
Yeah.
This
Thank
is
God
the
there's
most
a lot of
comic
us.
book movie I've ever seen.
Or I mean,
Best comic book movie you've ever seen?
No, the most comic book. You know, like the most comic book because of all these connections.
Yeah.
Pete, you know this. So in the movie, his friend Ned, does he become the Hobgoblin or something like that, or a version of the Hobgoblin?
He does?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ned Leeds, interesting. So Ned Leeds in the comic was never Peter Parker's best friend.
Right.
Ned Leeds was a guy who got a job at the Daily Bugle and wound up dating Betty Brant, which was Peter Parker's first girlfriend.
Right.
So
Who's in the movie? She's in this movie for like a second, and she was in the other one.
She was in the last one a little bit more.
Yeah.
She basically was J. Jonah Jameson's secretary. So they met in high school, but then she wound up she was still dating Peter, but they were on like a little bit of a break. And then she winds up meeting Ned Leeds. And there's like this back and forth between Peter and Ned, but Ned worked at the Daily Bugle. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he becomes the Hobgoblin. He becomes a villain.
He becomes a villain. Yeah, I don't remember who, but I was going to say, Pete, now that we got a clean slate, the new love interest I want for Spider-Man in the next movie, Black Cat.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
Totally. Time for the Black Cat.
I'm all for that.
I mean, they've done various MJs. They've done Gwen Stacy.
Do you think they're done with MJ, Zendaya as MJ? I mean, do you think
for now? I think so. I think we're gonna,
he seems to want to just bow out of that. It's almost like he wanted to leave the two of them. That's it. We're moving on.
Well, right. That's how I took it. That he wanted to talk to them, but then once he started talking to them, specifically MJ, and he realized how happy they were, and then when he saw the scar on her head, he was like, "Oh God!" Just like J. Jonah Jameson said, anybody that gets connected to Spider-Man's life, perishes or gets in trouble or gets hurt. So he was like, okay, I love them too much to bring them back into this, so we're done. So I think
he's going to sacrifice his happiness with them.
100%
be happy because they got
I
accepted.
saw it as him taking it slow.
But
I'm
at
gonna
the
take my time
end,
with this.
to me, I took
end,
it. I took it
at
as
the end-
sacrifice for sure, the ultimate sacrifice.
at the end, when they show his apartment, when they show this the new Spider-Man suit and everything, they showed his coffee cup that he's continued to go back there to the coffee shop to see MJ, because she said to him before she loses her memory, I was able to figure out before, that you were Spider-Man, and I'll be able to figure it out again. So I think that's what he keeps trying to do. He keeps going back there to hope that it'll jog her memory, that she remembers who he is, and they can pick up where they left off and everything.
It could
So I
be.
don't know.
I guess it'll decide on how long of contract Zendaya has.
Yes, and don't forget too, they're in a real life relationship at the moment,
Right.
like the previous two
And where's that
Spider-Man, and they always ended. In fact, I read an interview with Amy Pascal, who produced all the Spider-Man movies, and she was like, "Listen, you guys do not date, do not get involved." Of course, they didn't listen,
No.
but to me, I'm like, okay, make it like James Bond or whatever. Give him another look. Spider-Man screwed lots of good-looking broads. Black Cat could be next. Maybe Betty later on. I mean, there's,
his world's Gwen Stacy. They never showed
absolutely.
that, and
Yeah.
but a lot of
So
ways to go.
here's a question though, right? When the other two Spider-Men are like, well, my Uncle Ben died, and then the other one's like, well, my Uncle Ben died. I'm like, okay, so now's your chance, Tom Holland. Did you not have an Uncle Ben?
Yeah.
He never asked Aunt May, well, who are you married to? It's like,
Is that the gimmick?
No Uncle Ben.
No, but like no mention.
Was he never mentioned in any of the movies, the other two movies,
No.
just in passing?
It was just
Never.
Aunt May. That's it. There was
Aunt
no
May,
mention
that's it.
of-
And then Of course,
Okay.
like Pete said, Aunt May gets the Uncle Ben line in this movie, which was cool.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, so I guess there's no Uncle Ben.
So she was single for her whole life, maybe.
Well, right. I'll believe that.
Well, just not married.
Right.
Yeah, poor Happy got
Because she
dumped
did look
right at the
great.
beginning of the
Holy
movie.
shit.
Yeah, poor Happy got dumped right at the beginning of the movie. And
Yeah.
That was funny.
Poor Happy. Poor
who
Happy.
ironically was Foggy Nelson, right? In the Ben
Yes,
Affleck
in the Daredevil movie,
So
which is a terrible movie.
Yes,
But that's a
it's
whole
weird,
other.
yeah, to see them together.
Oh well.
But yeah, will be interesting to see where this
Where we
goes.
go from here. Yes, exactly.
I'll be there on the next one that Thursday at 11 a.m. because you know by then it'll be like 11.
You know, if we're talking Marvel movies, you know, I never saw Eternals in the theater. I didn't think it looked that appealing, and then I had a bunch of friends told me it sucked. Yeah, I saw Shang-Chi at the drive-in, and I thought it was okay.
I like
this really kind of raises the bar back up again for Marvel films, but also it's like, okay, well, let's not forget, Marvel still has two humongous aces up their sleeves with the Fantastic Four and the X-Men.
Yeah.
So I'm like, holy, and I'm sure those are in development. Yeah.
And doesn't stop. They just keep going deeper and deeper.
They've sort of alluded to in the movies that, you know, Tony Stark sold Avengers Plaza, and I'm assuming that's going to be where the Baxter building is.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
For Fantastic Four, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And then they've sort of introduced how you're going to get mutants into the MCU with WandaVision, I think, because when people kept passing through the dome, you know, they were that's how, what's her name, Monica Rambeau, like, got her abilities by going
right.
through.
But the whole thing with the mutants though is they are born with it.
Yeah, but
So
all the people in that whole town is in that dome, so you can make it say that they're all
right, but
got it.
That's like Electro. That's like falling into a pit. The whole thing with the mutants is you're born as a baby with these weird powers, and that's why you're different, and that's why in the Marvel universe you're disliked and feared, you know, because you're born with this, like being born with an extra pecker or two thumbs on the same hand. You know, you're a freak, right, Pete? It's not that you get the mutant powers from passing through a dome or whatever. No, you're born with it. You're a child and you have these powers. So I don't know if they're going to do the mutant thing with Westfield, but I mean, the X-Men are definitely coming at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a lot to do between now and then, but yeah.
They've done that in that the little background stuff, like this, like when you super slow-mo it down, Spider-Man has a circle and an X through his face, and it's like, well, that's supposed to be the X-Men symbol. And they even the rooftop scene in the beginning of the movie with Peter and MJ, there's a graffiti in the background that says Ditko. It's like
that.
You know, really little in the background, so they throw in all those things.
Somebody said they saw another thing for Rogers the musical.
Yeah,
in Spider-Man. I didn't see.
Yeah,
it,
it's one of the billboards as he's zipping around. Yeah.
And look, to people who think, oh, there's just too many comic book movies, I'm tired of all this crap.
Nah.
These movies aren't for you. These movies are like comic books put on the big screen. They play out like comic books, like comic book issues. And nobody ever went to the newsstand in the 70s and 80s to buy Time Life or whatever, Sports Illustrated, and said, there's too many damn comic books on this newsstand. I just want to get Sports Illustrated. You just ignored the comic books.
Right.
So treat these like the comic books on the stand. Ignore them if you think there's too many.
Well, I'll say too, to Jamie's point, you know, the reason we keep getting comic book movies is because they keep making money. You know, people forget, for like 20 years, Westerns were the biggest fucking movies out there, but they eventually stopped making money, so they stopped making them. And that's what's going to happen here. I mean, listen, between the four of us, we have a lot of plans just for the Marvel Universe alone. But if these things stop making money, that's when they're going to go away. Hopefully they won't, because we all think they're fun, but that's the reality. Once they stop bringing in the bucks, they'll go the way of the westerns or the musicals or the teen slashers or whatever teen sex comedies, whatever other the genre was hot for years and then died off.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. If you look back in time, I mean, the 80s was teen slashers, right?
Comedy.
Teen slashers, teen sex comedies.
Yep. In the 70s, you had all the sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
Before that, you had all the westerns and the mob movies and all that kind. I mean, this
Totally
is the way it goes, right? Yeah.
Once the fad, and it's what I don't know how much, what are we 20 years into this superhero fad now,
Blowing it down.
right. It's not slowing down anytime soon, but once the box office starts going backwards, then that's when things will slow down.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, a lot of these movies are good though. You're not getting like Steel.
Yes.
Well, you know what it is, because they're not duplicating from movie to movie to movie. Everyone is different. It continues a storyline, right?
Yes.
And that's what's important. As long as you're keeping it fresh and interesting for the viewers, people will continue to go. And I don't know what the numbers have been for the Spider-Man film so far.
It had a good big weekend. It had like
Really?
250.
Second biggest box office opening of all time.
Ever. In the middle of a pandemic.
In
Middle of
the
the pandemic.
States.
Yeah.
Yes. Biggest box
Nice.
office opening of all time was Endgame, which
Yeah.
I think was like 360 million. And
Star Wars might
this
be
Spider-Man was
3.
250 or 260.
Yeah, it was 260. And I think, something Jamie talked about early on about how, you go a week later and the crowds are even bigger. I think this is going to be a word of mouth film that I think that a lot of people dealing with the pandemic and the holidays maybe haven't even seen it yet. So this might even pick up even more when people start to have time off and things between now and the new year. So this
Titanic legs.
Right, exactly.
Titanic legs.
Yeah.
And listen, who knows? Maybe after the holidays and once word gets out there more, they'll change the advertising and we'll see commercials with all 3 Spider-Men flying up on there on the TV commercial.
Right.
Why not? To get those extra bucks in there.
Yeah, everybody's
say
all
you-
out
you-
there now, right? So yeah.
They'll say you want to get the fuck out of that house to get away from
Right.
your relatives.
They could do that shot where they all say,
Totally.
see it again, and again.
Right.
Yeah.
You've seen it twice. Now see it the third time.
The third
Yes.
time, right? And
See
have this
it in 40x and get something thrown
40X.
in your face.
What's the old line from I'm wearing the shirt, Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman. See it with someone you hate. Makes no sense, but they're just trying to sell tickets.
Something. Yeah.
I'm more amazed. Where did you get a werewolf woman shirt? Holy cow, that's awesome.
It's an old one, but it's from Fright Rags. I liked it so
Fright
much.
Rags is great. Yeah, that's a
Fright Rags
fun
is good.
film. Look at that.
That's on my Blu-ray wish list for sure.
Yeah.
We'll probably
I
just
think
have to buy a
I
Blu-ray.
think that's on my Tubi list, which has to be like 150 movies. Have I got you hooked?
Craig
on
got
that?
me totally hooked on Tubi, unfortunately. I like it so much, I actually emailed Tubi. I was like, hey, I really like your channel. Can you charge me a couple bucks a month and like give me no commercials? Do you have that option like Peacock does? Right? You can get it for free, or if you pay a couple bucks, there's no commercials. They wrote back to me.
The Tubi is free? Like, I don't know anything about it.
Completely
Yeah, I
free.
watch stuff on there. At least during the commercials, it has a countdown to how long
Yeah, it gives you the
commercials are gonna
clock.
be.
They
So you
give you
can know
fast.
if you got time to go get a glass of water or pee or whatever.
You can pause it once.
You can pause
I think
it,
even
yeah.
during the
Should I
commercial.
like cancel Shutter and just use Tubi?
Well, it's different because Shutter gets a lot of brand new stuff.
Yeah.
What
yeah.
I like about
Shudder.
Tubi, because I got the olds, is there's a lot of old shit. Like, Creature and Firecracker and Werewolf versus the Vampire Woman.
Yeah.
And what they do, all the movies are uncut. So they have all the blood, all the nudity, all the violence and cursing, but there is a commercial break like I don't know,
every 10 minutes or every 10
and
to
it's
15 minutes.
5
They're abrupt.
commercials.
They're
and Jamie's-
abrupt.
Oh yeah. It always happens. It's like the best part. And you're like, what the fuck? But it's free.
No, but they have the just fantastic movies in that. Those ones that I watched today. I watched that Wheels of Fire. It's 1985 total ripoff of
Max.
Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome, but
Okay.
so bad, but yet so entertaining, but then the next movie I watched was that Kung Fu Zombie, and that my brain basically fell out after, from that. It was
I remember seeing that at an Exhumed show, and I
Ugh.
think I had the same experience. I was just like,
I flew too close to the sun on that one,
Yeah.
but
but it's a cool channel, Pete, and whoever's listening, it is free,
Yeah.
And what I like is similar to Shudder. There's a lot of movies on here that I was interested in seeing because I was interested in buying the Blu-ray, but now I could just watch it for free on Shudder, but you have to deal with the commercials.
Yeah.
I watched that Torso last night. That was really
Oh,
good.
Torso's great.
I never saw it, and it was all in
Yeah.
Italian. So with the subtitle, with the subtitles. So I
Well-
was proud. I was proud of myself for reading the whole movie.
And I'm sure it's subtitled because they probably took it from the most recent Blu-ray, because it seems like all the stuff that they get is a lot of it is from the recent remasters that are on Blu-ray and DVD.
Yeah, it references like Shout Factory and
Yes.
and some of those places.
Some of them have the right. Craig's right. It'll bring up the little Shout Factory logo or whatever.
Arrow, whatever. Yeah.
Just
So
the
yeah,
name,
it's
though,
worth
too.
checking out. But how ironic, because I have like every channel under the sun, the Paramount, Disney, HBO Max, all these other ones that I'm paying for. But my favorite one is the free one, and I'm asking them to take my money, and they're like, "No, you got to suffer with the commercials."
And they're localized too. That's what was really, because I was watching that, and they had commercials for things that are like 2 towns
Oh,
over.
no
and I was
kidding.
like, for me, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like,
Interesting.
how do you know?
That's scary.
Yeah,
Tubi's
well,
creepy.
that's because everybody's watching us. That's like when you're, you got your Facebook open and you're talking to the missus and you're like, oh, I want a cheeseburger, and the next thing you know, all these cheeseburger ads are popping up on Facebook.
I bought this the other day. Just bought it. Didn't even say the word. That very afternoon on Facebook. You want to buy a Hatchet T-shirt?
Yep. There you go.
Which I just bought.
Yeah, Hatchet's fun. Yeah, Hatchet's fun. The first 3, I didn't like the 4th one, but the first 3 are a lot of fun.
Well, the 4th one is going to show up on my horror comedy show.
Oh, well, it's not terrible. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's better than Kung Fu Zombie.
Oh, that was brutal. But they have so many good action movies on there, and it's like, just stuff I've heard of or seen pictures of, but have not seen. So stuff that you guys mentioned when you guys have had the episode that you guys did for Monsters Den on the Alien knockoffs. There were six of the movies that you mentioned were on Tubi. And so that Forbidden World, Creature,
Galaxy of Terror,
Slithis, Galaxy of Terror. There was Inseminoid. Those were all on Tubi. So I was like, as soon as I did that, I was like, bookmark. It's like, we'll watch this later.
Yeah,
And,
I didn't feel like going in the garage and rewatching Creature in the garage, so I just watched it. I watched Creature in the house off of Tubi.
But some of those, that's why I'm saying to you guys, like, is this any good? It's like, is it going to make my brain fall out? Like Kung Fu Zombie did, or or not?
But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on there.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, everybody. So there you have our recap of Spider-Man No Way Home, plus some additional stuff at the end.
Like 25 minutes of bullshitting.
Yeah. I was gonna say, did we even review the movie? We just kind of danced
Well,
around
like
it.
forever ago, right?
We gave him an after credits scene.
It's all a blur.
It's really good though. It's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I think I've had more fun with this film. I think probably, my favorites are, I think the last 2 Avengers films, I think were really, really good, obviously. And this, I think, is up there. It may not be
I would agree.
but it's up there. It's definitely my favorite Spider-Man film, I think, and it's past the second film. I think the second Spider-Man with Doc Ock was previously my favorite, but this is really good, a lot of fun. So for those watching, if you've seen it, put your comments below on what you think of the film. If you haven't seen it yet and you've stuck through this entire time here, well, obviously you know the whole damn film. So
I was just gonna say
I don't know what to tell you.
For you, so
Tough shit.
So I do want to wish everybody a happy and healthy Christmas.
Yeah.
Or Hanukkah, whatever it is you celebrate.
Whatever you celebrate.
And, thanks for watching us here on Comic Book Geezers and the Monsters Den on Sea of Tranquility. So for Chris Laszlo and Craig Kaminski and Jamie Laszlo, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for hanging in with us this year and this episode specifically. We'll see you real soon here on Sea of Tranquility and Comic Book Geezers. Take care, everybody.